ASCE is a professional society for civil engineers who do the nation's infrastructure. We plan it, design it, manage it, and we cover the beginning of when you enter as a student to when you retire someday as a life member.
We also represent engineers in all facets of life, working for government, working for private practice, working for industry, and also in education. So we represent them, making sure that the right legislation passes to enforce what they do and prevent things that should not be passed.
So there's a lot of great things for younger members, and something that I like particularly for my branch is my involvement in the Government Affairs Committee. And what we do in that committee is a number of things where we reach out to our local legislators, we educate them about infrastructure issues, we work to inform the public about what's important in their communities to make infrastructure a top priority.
I was the 2009 ASCE Congressional Fellow. In that role, I worked for Senator Tom Udall in his Washington, D.C. office. And as the Congressional Fellow, I was able to shape legislation to ensure that his priorities and priorities that were important to civil engineers were created into law. It's important that we as civil engineers be involved in the legislative process because all of our electeds want to hear from their constituents and they respond to what their constituents want. And if we don't have a voice at the table, if we're not constantly calling and asking or suggesting ideas for them to enact into law, they don't know, and so they won't hear us and they won't act.
Each year, ASCE picks one of their members to work in Congress along with many other science fellows from other groups like mechanical engineers and industrial engineers. And every year they pick one fellow to go and work in Congress so that way Congress can get some knowledge about civil engineering and so that civil engineer can get some knowledge about how policy works so that way they can bring it back to our membership.
You start thinking about the world in bigger terms, a little more global, and you kind of get a better sense of what civil engineers do and the big impact that we have on our world.
See, most of the public are not aware of what dire need this country is in terms of infrastructure. And take, for example, the recent report on the infrastructure needs, the rank card. And those kinds of information are translated to public in a way that they are easily understood by them, and they can go back and support things like local sales tax measures or, like, for example, the controversial the gas tax increase, excise tax increase, such things. So ASCE plays a major role.